So, welcome everybody to the latest episode of the Apptivate podcast. We are talking today Privacy Sandbox. It's not the first time. We are actually moving forward with all the developments. We have some great guests and we can share some latest insights of technical tests, how it's going on with the sandbox. We will talk about auctions and how the auction system is actually looking now at the Android sandbox. So right now, DSPs actually bid on ad placements on SSPs if they want to buy impressions to serve an ad. So how is that changing actually, right? It's quite technical and will the flow be the same? What will be the experience? With me, I have Trenton Starkey from Google Privacy Sandbox and Gaylord Zach from Verve. And I'm Pan Katsukis, CEO and co-founder at Remerge. I'm doing now the DSP side of things, of the discussion today. Maybe Trenton can say a few words what he is doing at Google.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Pan. Repeat, I'm Trenton Starkey, product manager working on Google Privacy Sandbox. My main focus is really on the ads, the Android ads relevance APIs, more specifically our protected audiences API, as well as our protected app signals. And yeah, I'm really thrilled to be here today.
Wonderful. Gaylord, so what is Verve doing and what is your role there?
Yeah, I'm Gaylord Zach, at head of mobile product at Verve Group. We're a mobile SSP. Actually, we have multiple marketplaces. And as such, we're working closely with many publishers and of course various demand partners such as Remerge. I'm specifically in my role looking after our privacy enhancing technologies, and the Privacy Sandbox, of course, being one very exciting one of them.
Great. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit more detailed how you're approaching or how you're looking at the Privacy Sandbox and how you came up to be one of the first ones in the industry to test actually the auction system.
Verve Group takes a very open approach to privacy enhancing technologies and generally platform supported technologies, but also independent technologies. And so that means we're looking at all the different options, and we're always trying to get the best monetization options out for our clients. And some of these technologies are, of course, entering the market, being enforced by platform operators. With Privacy Sandbox, it's a bit different because Google took this collaborative approach with the industry. So the proposals were out, but then Google invited industry players to collaborate. And we're very proud that we've been one of the first mobile SSPs that entered this testing stage, and since then, provided regular feedback and also got hands-on with these APIs. So our goal is, of course, to have solutions for our publishing and demand partners right from the start when these APIs are broadly available. And of course, by the time any enforcements come into place, that we can offer monetization options that are on par with what we see in today's landscape. That is, of course, quite an ambitious goal. We're making good progress on that journey, and as such, we got involved very early in really testing the technologies, testing these APIs, seeing how they not work, and gradually making progress.
That's very interesting because, I think the point what I said that you are one of the first ones, because like what we are also seeing in the industry, there is this wait and see approach, right? So when to enter, when to invest, what we are seeing from our end. So we have also we have a team fully focusing on Sandbox since over a year that tries exactly like you said to collaborate together with the industry, with Google, to form the APIs in order to make them utilizable, to make the transition as smooth as possible, and to see what's maybe not working as scalable as or as stable as it should be, or how it works right now, right? So and I think that's very interesting to see that you are investing also relatively early on to see and also form how the transition can be done in the future.
It's a huge difference between reading a proposal and agreeing, from a strategic perspective, from a high-level perspective, this might work, and then wait and see, or really getting down to the technology, to getting hands-on with the APIs, and only then you realize, oops, it's not as that simple. It's not a drop-in replacement. I can't just update an SDK. Well, our clients will be able, but for us as the technology providers, we have to really rework things. And I think also some of the stuff Google didn't have top of their mind when they started the process. It's also only over time and various discussions that we get to the point where certain use cases simply we thought they would work, but they actually don't. So things have to evolve.
Exactly. Trenton, what is your view on that? So we were discussing a little bit like how two small players in the whole ecosystem look at the sandbox and how we are trying to invest and to make the transition for every market participant as good as possible. But also from your experience, your learning, and your view and vision on that, how do you see that?
Yeah, certainly quite a few things there to unpack. So I'll try to do my best. One is just kind of thinking about like why the collaboration aspect is important, right? And our goal with the Privacy Sandbox on Android is to be able to develop effective private enhancing solutions where developers and businesses have the tools to succeed on mobile. I think Gaylord, you mentioned this already, but like we're not building drop-in replacements. We are intending to collaborate with the ecosystem and work on their key use cases and support these building blocks that ad tech can continue to build their business upon, and continue to innovate. As far as like you kind of both had mentioned where we have found areas of opportunity for improvement. And I would say like just really through a lot of the ecosystem engagement that we've already seen additions to Privacy Sandbox where we are working with the ecosystem. We are, unpacking these key use cases and understanding, as Gaylord mentioned, like when we put our hands and start seeing end-to-end flows, ad techs start finding where there might be gaps or where there may be areas for us to evolve the APIs a bit. I kind of want to touch on just a quick example specifically for like this remarketing use case. And it's really around, we've had to evolve and change some of the design of our APIs to really support like what we know as like audience activation, right? And this is, that classic remarketing case where you put shoes in a cart, somebody abandons, and then you want to advertise to them in another app. Well, we need to introduce ways to be able to activate these audiences. And typically it takes kind of multiple players in the ecosystem to be able to do this. It's not just demand side partners activating these audiences. It takes two ends, as well as like in the auctions, right? Coordinating the auction between multiple buyers. So as we're kind of going through this, there's like a couple kind of key things that we continue to learn. And you both hinted this as well, is that ad techs can't really test in isolation. It takes testing, actually testing the APIs, and requires some level of coordination between the ad tech partners. And again, this is dependent on the use case, but like with the example I just used before, it takes multiple parties in order to, get the audiences activated on the device. And then it takes additional coordination between another set of ad tech parties to be able to operate and run the auction and participate in that same auction. So collaboration is very key here. Yeah,
I agree. Like, I think that's also, what we are seeing as one of the challenge is to get everybody on board, right? To be able to do the end-to-end testing, to move forward, and also really to understand if that's feasible, if it's scalable, if it works technically, and if obviously everything has been seen and has been like part of the design. And because I think also nowadays, even if you look at the stage right now, it's just like so complex for like who is participating, who is doing what, and it's constantly changing and evolving. I mean, the industry has been moving forward for so fast and so quickly. That is, I think, always quite a challenge to keep up. But also like if I think about it, how it all started 1 year ago, and it was like all really early, and where we were just like looking at it at the sandbox and the framework, and it was like so many things still missing or unclear, and where we are right now with the help of different players in the industry, with the active collaboration, having frequent and regular calls. And also, just like getting closer together and test what we have been doing right now. I think, that's very good to see. And hopefully the transition, as said, I think that's the ultimate goal, to make it as smooth as possible, but to have all the benefits of privacy designed for the end users, for the industry across, all over the world, right? I think that's the ultimate goal, why we are sitting also here.
One thing to add, of course, in the early stage, we were reviewing proposals. So the work was more or less on paper. And then we started looking at the different APIs in isolation. Yeah. But then, of course, the next step, I think we'll dive a bit deeper into that in a bit. We started collaborating with Remerge. And what really excites me for this year is when we can make the shift to the real user devices, start testing things out in the wild, and we're actually getting ready for that phase where we can start putting things really in motion. Again, then of course between the different system players, but seeing things start to work, seeing suddenly things come to life. Will be very, very exciting, and of course there will be tons of feedback afterwards as well. There's no way we can pull this off and it will be perfect from day one. It took the industry like 20 years, digital advertising, to get where it is today. Of course, we can't replicate that within a few months or years.
Yeah. Trenton, maybe from your perspective, and also because you're in this like in the center of the storm since a while, how is it for you also, like being in that product role and coordinating that and improving things, and with the resources and the investments everybody is doing, like how is it and how confident are you with how things are going?
Yeah, I think like most things, the way I would always kind of approach it and kind of pitch is like getting started early is very important, right? As you mentioned, we start out with a set of proposals for the ecosystem to digest, and then we follow with developer previews for ad tech companies to get their hands on the APIs, start building out their designs and doing their end-to-end testing. So anytime that we can do that phase of things before live traffic testing, and we've had quite a good time period for ad techs to be able to start doing that testing, and we've seen lots of success with going through the proposals, starting to set up the dev environments, doing the end-to-end designs, running actual end-to-end functional tests in dev environments, and so it's been very exciting. And this is kind of the point of kind of driving home that like what we're building isn't just drop-in replacements. And so kind of seeing ad techs and folks kind of get over that hurdle of they're continue to evolve on top of these APIs, specifically for their business use cases. And then we really see the momentum starting to pick up. So kind of with that being said, it's important for, ad techs really to plan and begin as early as possible. One, providing the feedback, highlighting any of the gaps that may exist in the proposals. It's been some time, so as far as like these gaps are likely to get fewer and farther between where they're discovered, though just as much important for us to kind of land full proposals. As mentioned, starting to move into live traffic testing, which is kind of another layer of really proving out the end-to-end flow and the functional tests on that live traffic. Again, all of this just kind of summarizes like we are very keen to gather this feedback at this stage and use it to inform how we continue to improve both user privacy while we continue to provide these solutions that enable, a thriving mobile app ecosystem.
Great. So when we talk now about practicality and how is the real life looking, let's dig deeper into the on-device bidding test, right? With a new framework on Sandbox. This is kind of the hello world moment, right? Different parties communicating with new APIs and seeing like if something is coming out of that. So Gaylord, maybe you want to run us through how the test has been designed and what actually happens and how it maybe is different from how it is right now and how it will be then going forward and where we are maybe today.
Sure. So just really briefly on the context, the test we've done with Remerge, or between Verve Group and Remerge, that was specific on the protected audience API, which is the re-engagement use case. And there are of course various APIs in the Privacy Sandbox. This was the first one we've picked, which is quite exciting and took us quite a while to get our heads around it, because it breaks with the traditional way of programmatic advertising, where all the data is sent in the bid request to the demand side. The DSP has its own models, its own data, and responds with a bid, and that is auctioned on the SSP and then rendered on the user's device. And instead, here suddenly parts of the DSP logic, data, and bidding logic gets sent over to the device, and everything happens on the device, and the subscription of audiences, the custom audiences, happens on the device. So that brings us back to the earlier point. Nobody can do that by itself. The DSP typically has no on-device presence. The SSP has no the SSP with the on-device SDK has no audience management. So only by combining the efforts from the Remerge team and the Verve Group team, we were able to put these two together, and that was quite exciting. It's like two people reading the same book and then telling about their individual experiences about it afterwards. Yeah, that's a bit how I felt at the very beginning of this collaboration, because each of us had different aspects, different hurdles to overcome, and then at some point we were able to put it together. And it sounds a bit silly, a bit childish, that everybody gathers quite happy about the screen where you see an ad banner. But that was really the moment where our SSP, our SDK technology, and Remerge's DSP technology communicated via these not yet mature, these beta APIs provided by Google, and we were so happy seeing a banner coming up on screen. And that's that very, very important moment. And from that point onwards, of course, other collaborations between the teams become a lot easier, because suddenly you see these results.
So how was it? Like, I mean, exactly like you said, okay, everybody gets the book, reads it, and then implements it, and then just like push a button, and then it all works out. Was it like that, or how was the path to that?
No, of course not. Of course not. And it wouldn't be fair to compare this to any of the engineering marvels that we see in space travel or something. Yeah, in the end, it was just a banner ad. But still, of course, in the beginning, nothing worked. Yeah, I mean, can be so honest here. The important thing is that we made it work. Yeah, and that's the essence of the collaboration. It's like your early courses in mathematics in school. Yeah, it's not the result that matters; it's how you got there. And that's the process that defines our journey here. That we find ways to make it happen. And we didn't stop at this result, but then we've agreed and made plans for the next steps. How we can take this forward. And of course, there were still various simplifications that we had to make in the early iterations. But from this point onwards, we can then add more and more components. Like besides the SSP with the monetization SDK and the DSP, typically we also have an MMP in the mix, which is a major step going forward to real world applications. So and moving it then from the development environment, as I mentioned earlier, to real user devices that we can test in the wild will be another big milestone. So that's the journey we've started.
When we look at also what we said at the beginning, comparing the world how it is today and also with the new framework with the Privacy Sandbox, how it will look like in the future, and the tests and the progression we have done, how do you feel with the like on a confidence level? Do you believe like it will the future will look great? Is there a lot of work still to be done? And how's your feeling?
The future will always look great because the future is what we shape it. Yeah. So that's a given. It will be hard work. That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, Trenton explained, we have these building blocks. They do mature. Yeah. We still see gaps. Today. We see Google addresses them. The announcement, the new timeline for Chrome just went out. Which is part of that. So specifically back to Android. Of course, we will have advertising, yeah, and of course this advertising will be effective, but it will take some time to build new business models around it, to build new processes and optimize these processes. That's the essential thing. We cannot. It's like when you change from combustion engines to electric cars. Yeah, there are many people who hang on to the old world. Not all the use cases work as well on the electric cars. Some work much better. And my hope is actually that we can clean up with a lot of the legacy that actually has led to these the development of these privacy enhancing technologies. We have, of course, big issues with privacy, with security of data, with trust. Advertising IDs in the traditional way, as it's been handled over the last 15 years or so, rely on trust, and the industry, unfortunately, has shown on many occasions that they can't give this security to the user, and that these use cases come to a natural end. So this is the big opportunity to build new ways of advertising that break with the legacy.
Yeah, Trenton, maybe for anything to add from from your point, you have been more like from the sideline and seeing and watching how players like us collaborate and use the framework you have done in order to create exactly that hello world moment and be able to display a banner and run that through, and it works. How do you see that, and what's your confidence then going forward?
Yeah, I mean, very exciting moment, of course. The small wins, and so it's really great opportunities. Like I've probably said this too many times in this. It's like one, seeing ad techs, start early and really get their hands on the proposals and start, engineers sitting down, doing their end-to-end designs, and then actually implementing them and seeing the end-to-end flow. It really highlights, that these are building blocks, and that your business logic does need built upon and around these building blocks in order to really make that banner ad show up. It is not, just integration with the privacy sandbox and you're off and running. It is very much, you need to see how these fit into your broader systems and how they support your business use cases for both your publishers and your advertising, or your publisher and advertising partners, right? And so kind of that end-to-end solution, kind of end-to-end testing gives, a level of confidence. And then also identifying where there's, continued areas of improvement on how we can shape and evolve the APIs also kind of adds to that level of confidence. The more iterations through this loop we continue to make, the more that we can continue to drive this innovation, both for privacy as well as, providing stronger, better, more consistent components as we continue to move forward.
Here we have a lot of listeners are publishers and advertisers, so they are in the industry, and they are also wondering, like, okay, what does it mean for them right now? You have anything like to tell them? Can they switch the monetization model completely to Sandbox, or when is it supposed to happen? Same for advertisers. We are getting also a lot of questions. Okay, what should they do? When can they start testing? Where are we maybe right now there? Gaylord, you want to say it first?
Sure. There are unique challenges, of course, for publishers and advertisers, as you mentioned. I reckon the journey for the publisher is a lot simpler, because essentially the publishers, particularly mobile publishers, they integrate an SDK in their app for monetization, and as long as they keep these SDKs up to date, they should be fine, because all the heavy lifting is happening within the adtech ecosystem. So Verve Group's SDKs will at some point offer the Privacy Sandbox APIs, and not much will change for the publisher. They will be able to request ads when they want to see them, banners, full screen video, playables, all the native, all the usual formats. And what changes under the hood is completely transparent to the publisher already today. Yeah, like mediation solutions, header bidding, all the various technologies that we see today. So for the publisher, you would argue no big deal. The interesting question will then be, as we evolve and mature the way how we use Privacy Sandbox technologies, what new use cases may come up, maybe things that weren't possible in the old world, so to say. And but that may be a bit too early to discuss now. On the advertiser side, and that's maybe more for you to say, is getting, of course, a lot more challenging and needs more education, as the way advertisers used to target, of course, changes. And doesn't mean it's better or worse necessarily. We'll find that out, but it will most definitely change.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think when we look at the current stage, and that's why such milestones, what we are discussing today, are so important, because they are the foundation in order to be able to, just like set up, run, scale campaigns, compare, experiment, and just like learn and improve and iterate. And that's like something obviously which happens all the time already nowadays. But on the new technical framework, that's what is all to come, right? And I think exactly like you said also, that the heavy lifting that all the players right now have to do in the ecosystem to just like transition to have the core capabilities in order to run it, they are needed in to put marketing budget behind it and test and experiment. My feeling is that a lot of big advertisers, I think also small ones, I think advertisers in general, are very excited, are looking forward to test it. They all are aware that it is coming, and the sooner they can start to test is also for their hypotheses that they can make the transition as smooth as possible, and so that it's not like a rocky development. So we are also quite confident. As I said, like it is quite an investment in order to do there. We have to get everybody on the at one table, like continuously, and share and learn. But that's been happening quite well, I think. We see also specifically this year another push. The topic is becoming more and more into the center and on the roadmaps of different players. So it looks actually pretty good. And I know like that exactly also what you said, when the APIs will be rolled out to the devices, when it gets like more and more available, more and more scalable to test, first on the technical side, and then maybe also on a marketing side to reach audiences and to see how it's working, comparing it with the current system, and then get better and better, and then even just like create new solutions, better solutions for the future based on the latest technology that will be available. Then we have almost like a moonshot new era achieved in advertising, right? Away from the uncertainty where we are, maybe to more stable and scalable and prosperous future, hopefully. Trenton, anything to say or to add?
Yeah, you guys kind of covered it, so I'll probably reiterate a couple points, and I think the first one is just like, I think the ecosystem as a whole, like you all are doing great by like already being here and engaging, right? Like that is the key first step, and really like underscoring the fact that like now is the time really for the ecosystem to work on what our privacy focused solutions will look like, right? This is a great opportunity for the entire industry and the ecosystem to really work together over these coming months to really rethink how advertisers and publishers can continue to deliver great experiences, support their business models, and really doing this without like tracking users across their apps. I would kind of break the next part into kind of two pieces and really hone in on certain parties, and that being like, the ad techs, the app developers, Google Privacy Sandbox. Like we encourage you to test our APIs and provide us this feedback. This is what's really driving, the APIs forward. And as far as like the app developer, the publisher, the advertisers that rely on these third parties for, their advertising related services, start checking in with your providers around like what's their testing roadmap, and lean into like how you can participate in some of this early testing and enable some of kind of the end-to-end that you'll see. And just a little bit more tactically, I would say really start identifying like what are your top use cases and start designing against those with the Privacy Sandbox solutions that we're offering.
Very good point. Anything to add, Gaylord? Like still, we were talking about next steps, what to do. We've said already like how we are seeing the future.
There are two things I wanted to touch on technically. One of the big milestones we're aiming for this quarter is getting our heads around the T's, the trusted execution environments with the bidding and auction services. I didn't want to mention it because that gets really technical. However, as you keep comparing this moon rocket example comparison, the bidding and auction services is probably the closest we can get to the moon rocket. It shows the complications of the challenge at hand. Yeah, of course, browsers and mobile devices are quite restricted in terms of how much data they can process compared to the big server-side environments that we used to have in AdTech, with the large databases and models. So that shift, that decision from Google to offer actually a secure, a trusted cloud environment to offload a lot of that processing opens up the way for really data-rich actions and kind counteracts that fear that everybody will be blind and everything will be anonymous and there will be no data involved. Yeah, which of course is the big fear of advertisers, that they won't be able to reach the relevant audiences and return ads when everything dwindles. So by having quite powerful technologies at hand, we can really develop products that allow reaching the right audiences for the advertising. So that is definitely something that excites me quite a lot. Doesn't excite my engineers so much because it is quite painful to get it all up and running. But I'm sure in a couple of months' time, it will be pretty standard for everyone to have it and have it running. So that's on our technological roadmap to further dive deeper into these APIs. And as I mentioned before, hitting the real devices. Now, as Verve Group, we have different divisions, and besides our marketplaces, we also have multiple game studios where we also have our own mobile games. And these mobile games, of course, give us a unique opportunity to test some of these new technologies with our own supply. And of course, that supply we can then offer to our demand partners. And those will be, from Verve Group's side, the first opportunities to advertise in a privacy sandbox enabled environment, which is quite exciting. And we use our own technology for our own services, and that will ultimately help us offering better services for all our partners.
I agree. And also, same for us on the technical part, what you said with the trusted server environment. That's the same also on our agenda, like to set it up to test and get excited about. I think that all shows also exactly that point that in the sandbox design, that the whole topic of utilization and creating good products, scaling good products that are effective, despite just with that hypothesis, you don't need an ID all the time, right? Is quite exciting. Yeah, so it changes the way how things are being done. It's a source for new products, new approaches, and we're pretty confident also because nowadays you have much more opportunities like you had maybe 20 years ago with the technologies that were out there back then. So it is exciting, yeah. And then sitting together, thinking about it, and moving like a whole ecosystem to the future is quite fun to be part of. So I'm excited. I don't know, Trenton, maybe you have anything to add while we are finishing up this podcast?
Yeah, in the short term, as you guys mentioned, throughout the conversation, starting to do live traffic testing. So that's another really pivotal milestone that we're looking forward to. We will be doing this across all of our APIs. Many of them are starting to see live traffic today. And as we get into our latest proposals with the protected app signals as well, starting to see live traffic in the second half of this year, really continuing to prove out the proposals on those stages of the life cycle. For the longer term, really, as you guys mentioned, there's technical adoption, rolling it out, building on top of it, and just want to acknowledge that transitioning the internet to more private solutions, it is a big change. And as you guys allude to as well, this kind of change actually drives that innovation and opens new opportunities for us to build more private systems. And so, again, Privacy Sandbox is now providing these drop-in solutions. So it's important for ad techs to, and I do expect them to continue to innovate on top of these. And so this is, where we are today is definitely not the end state of Privacy Sandbox. And we'll need the collaboration, the adoption, and continued feedback loop from the ecosystem to really continue on how do we shape this future.
All right, sounds great. What do you say about finishing and going back to work and working on the future of privacy?
It's an early morning here, so I got a jump start on the day. So yeah, very much looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Trenton. Thank you, Gaylord, for giving us your perspective on the latest development on the sandbox. Looking forward to the next steps with working with you. Very excited. And thank you so much for sharing your ideas and being such a great partner. Maybe latest in next year or so, we have also first case studies and see where we are and can share our experience again. Thank you and have a wonderful day then.